Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's featured Reddit stories are from MaliciousCompliance. Story 1 is by Luna Ray 55. Make me feel bad? Get ready to feel extremely embarrassed. I work in asset financing for motor vehicles and land mostly. How it works is, you find a nice piece of land or a nice car, but you don't have the full asset price. We buy the asset for you and you repay us within a specific period of time with interest, and we give you the deed to the property after you've cleared the loan with us. I'm just laying the foundation here. Well, I got to work at a customer service role for the job, and a client comes to request for his deed. In this case, a logbook for his car, as he had cleared his loan. I check to find that his deed is not ready, and I ask him to come back in a couple of weeks. The client didn't want to hear this, as he needed proof of ownership for this vehicle, and he wanted the document that instant. I completely understood the client, although I couldn't do other thing than escalate the issue to the manager of the relevant department in the hopes that he'd figure something out. I went to his office and gave him a brief recap of the situation, and he said I was incompetent and lazy because I didn't handle the issue properly, and I have a habit of escalating unnecessary cases to him. This is coming from a guy who doesn't pick calls during the working hours and spends most of his time on YouTube and TikTok. He also gets mad when you go to his desk for anything, especially work stuff. He asked me to get the client and watch how easily he could solve the issue. Turns out the client was more than he could handle because the client started shouting at him as soon as I ushered him to the office. The manager started with the BS of it's the government causing the delay and he needs to be patient. I was watching this and thought it couldn't get better. The client stood up and slapped the manager and scattered the contents of his desk all over the floor. Other staff heard and security escorted the client out. I'll never forget the looks the manager gave me after things had settled. He rarely speaks to me now and handles my escalations quickly and better. I always have a big old smile on my face when I recall this. Okay, I'm a little confused. This place basically does their own loan system. They give you the deed or the title of ownership for a vehicle when you're done paying off the loan. It all makes sense so far. Why do they not have access to the deeds themselves? Why do they have to get it from the government and there's a delay? You would think they'd be keeping all the deeds and titles to the cars in their own workplace. Why wouldn't they? Then when somebody finally does pay off the loan, they should be able to get the title or deed to the house immediately. Why is there a delay? If you're this loan company, you bought the asset, right? You said that earlier. You own it, so you should have the deed. You should have the title. So signing it over you would think would be a pretty quick process. So I understand this guy being mad at you. Like, why would he finish paying off his loan and then be told, oh, you gotta wait a couple weeks? You should absolutely have some backup method, maybe a couple people to sign and say, yes, this person owns their property now. Here's a piece of paper that says you own this right now. What if they get this loan for a house? And then they renovate the property and they pay off the entire loan and then they're like, all right, I want to sell the house that I now own. I renovated the house. I want to sell this property now, today. And you don't have the deed for them? It just seems like not a really well-run place. But it is always shocking to me when somebody slaps somebody in the face. I can understand him being mad. He has a right to be mad. But slapping somebody is a little over the top. Assault is where I always draw the line. Our next story is by Nighthawk82. Legal tender. When I worked at a gas station in the late 1900s during graveyard, I had this guy come in and he bought a candy bar with a $100 bill. Really? You don't have anything smaller? I'm just trying to break the 100. Don't be a jerk. Fine. Just this once. Few days later. Guy comes back in, grabs a candy bar, and I see he has other bills in his wallet. Puts the 100 on the table. Sir, I told you last time it was going to be just once. I see you have a $5 bill. This is legal tender. You have to take it. Okay. I reach under the counter and pull out 2 boxes of pennies. 50 cents to a roll, $25 to a box, 17 pounds each. Here's 50. Do you want the rest in nickels? What is this? It's legal tender. I can choose to give you your change however I see fit. So, do you still want to break the 100 or the 5? I'm calling your manager. She gets in at 8 a.m., sir, but doesn't take any calls until 10. There's multiple reasons why people don't like breaking big bills. First of all, it could be a counterfeit. That doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. Second of all, a lot of these small businesses and convenience stores, they have a certain amount of change on hand. And if they had to give like $97 worth of change to every single person that came in, there would be a problem. They'd run out of change pretty quickly. And then somebody would have to run to the bank and break some large bill so that they can have change again. In general, it's just seen as inconsiderate to pay with a really large bill. But yes, it is legal tender, so if they have nothing else, you kinda gotta take it. Down in the comments by Being Right Ambassador. I had a guy try to pay with pennies on Black Friday once. Told him to get the heck out of here and quit joking around. He complained to my manager and she said, "What the F did you expect on Black Friday, you idiot?" Under that by Mysterious Past 6800. Does the US not have limits on that? In Canada, businesses are only required to accept 25 cents in pennies, though pennies are not legal tender anymore. Also, $5 in nickels, $10 in dimes, $10 in quarters, and $25 in loonies, $1 coins, and $40 in toonies, $2 coins. I used to work at a small store that made subs and stuff, and people would rarely, it was usually kids, would come in and they would pay for something that was like $5 or $7 in pennies. And they weren't trying to do it to be rude, that's just the change they had. They had like a piggy bank or something, and they didn't take it to a bank and change it in, they just brought it to me. And I took it. But I had to count the pennies, and I told them, if anybody else comes in, you and I are going to have to put this on hold, and I'll have to cash them out, and then we'll continue counting the pennies until we make sure there's enough here. And they would always help me. They were nice kids. Sometimes it's a you don't have money thing. Our next story today is by OK Performance 342. Should have pre-approved my remote day due sickness? Okay. This happened in my old job and I was reminded of it today. Thought it would fit here. In my old job, we had a great boss and hybrid work. If we had any reason to not come to the office, just a message to him and an extra remote day would be approved. Then he was let go. We got a new boss who was the exact opposite of her predecessor. This happened a few weeks after our old boss was let go, and his boss became our new boss. One morning I wasn't feeling well, too sick to travel to the office, but not too sick to work from home. I had a couple of remote meetings with customers, so it was just easier for me to work while being a little sick than try to reschedule. I spoke with my boss in Slack, and our conversation went like this. Me, good morning, I have a sore throat and a slight fever. I'll be working from home today, so no need to reschedule anything. Boss, our employer handbook clearly states that remote days are Tuesday and Thursday, and exceptions need pre-approval by the manager. I was pissed. Is she really trying to force me into the office even if I'm sick? Or what was her motive? But then it hit me, it doesn't matter, and our discussion continued. Me, oh, sorry, that's true. I have a sore throat and a slight fever. I'm unable to come to the office, so I'm taking a sick day. Could you please ask someone to reschedule the meetings with customer A and customer B since I'm recovering at home, at least for today? Me, the employer handbook states that I can take 3 sick days in a row without a doctor's note, but I'm willing to make an exception if you want and get you one. Do you want it? I was left on read for 10 minutes. She started typing, deleted the text, started again and deleted it again. She was active in our chat for an entire 10 minutes until I finally got a response. Boss, no, that won't be necessary. I'll ask someone to schedule those meetings. Get well soon. My colleagues almost died in laughter when I told them why I'm having a sick day and not just working from home. Our boss didn't like me after that, but the feeling was mutual. I left the company later for a new job, but not before she was fired. Oh, this story is epic. I love stories about malicious compliance with bosses like this, who just decide they need to be control freaks. Your remote days are on Tuesday and Thursday according to your contract. Okay, then I'm sick and I'm not working today at all. You gain nothing by telling this guy, you can't have a sick day today. You need pre-approval to work from home when you're not feeling well. She's out to lunch. The OP then shared some edits to talk about why she was fired. She was a commercial director. Last year before she joined the company, it made 606,000 euros profit. In her first year, 413,000 euros. Second year, it was 1,000 euros, and she was fired at the end of the third. Numbers aren't public yet, but they are similar to the last year if they somehow managed to stay profitable at all. She had previous experience from companies over 20 times bigger than that, and she was hired to help the company grow to the next level. Unfortunately, her skills were just to implement heavy processes and stiff organizational model. Her commercial department had 7 people working under her, and there were 4 sub-departments. 4 in sales, 2 in productization, 1 in account management, and marketing was handled by an outside contractor. We had 26 employees in total. We in sales were completely in new business, and after we had signed an agreement, account management took the contract role. Our former boss was head of sales, and he suggested that the salesperson could be the contact for the first year, or even handle possible upselling, selling more to the current customer, but the commercial director didn't even let him finish before he said no. So the company lost a lot of money when not doing the upsell. It was pretty common that companies start with a small deal with a new software, then expand the use step by step. For some reason, this wasn't an option if the customer didn't specifically ask us to provide more licenses. She was there before I was, but during my time, she focused on standardizing the sales process, which led to us losing sales and bringing in less money. For example, we couldn't modify text and proposals for the customers without asking permission from productization, and even after that, only marketing would be allowed to make changes. And this was even in situations where the customer didn't want some feature our product had. We couldn't even remove the text about it. I once counted that my proposal introduced 11 features, and 9 of them were completely irrelevant to the customer. 2 of them were something that the customer had explicitly stated that they didn't want those. This was a software, so it had some features customers didn't use, but they didn't affect the pricing, so it didn't matter. It led to situations where we heard from customers that we focused in completely unrelated things, not those which were relevant to the customer, and their board chose another vendor, even if the internal champion believed that we were much better. Internal champion? What the heck? Which we said would happen before this new model was implemented. Some other standardizations led to situations where owners asked something for us to do something, and we had to decline since we weren't allowed to do that. They respected her role, even when they didn't agree with her decision. But it's hard to believe that it didn't affect her termination. She costed about 2 million euros to the company, and that doesn't even include her salary. And for the top of that, she turned the company culture to something the owners didn't like. So she was an expensive, difficult person and hard to work with. She's yet another micromanager trying to do things by the book. It sounds to me like she also removed a lot of the personal feeling of the companies. She made it so you couldn't remove features from a software. What the customer wants should be what they get. I don't know why she's removing some of the personal aspect where they listen to it, make notes to, and change it based on what the customer wants. It almost sounds to me like she's encouraging some sort of bloatware for your software. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a beautiful day.